Hello GH fans, grab your snacks, silence your phone, and settle in, because Port Charles just served up one of those episodes where everyone is lying, spying, or being dragged off in handcuffs, and that's before we even get to the woman about to be snatched in her own living room. You've got Michael literally lurking outside a wedding like a soap opera raccoon, watching Drew and Willow's train wreck romance teeter on the edge. You've got Curtis asking the cop at his front door if he's under arrest, not really the Thanksgiving greeting anyone wants. Trina is done with her family's secrets, Portia might be about to throw Curtis under the bus to save herself, and somewhere in the dark, Carly is about to find out what happens when you become the leverage in a mob war you didn't start. So yeah, you have to hear what just went down in Port Charles, because this isn't just any random episode. This is the one where Thanksgiving peace, fake romance, and shaky alibis all collide, and the fallout could shape the next few months on General Hospital. Let's rewind and set the stage, because if you missed a few days, you might be wondering why Willow's marrying a man she openly admits she doesn't love, why Curtis is suddenly the prime suspect in a shooting we know he didn't commit, and why Carly is swinging a fire poker in her own home like she's in a horror movie. Right now, Drew and Willow are preparing for a wedding that's less soulmates and more of legal strategy. Willow's priority isn't romance, it's getting exonerated and getting her kids back. She knows exactly what Drew's done, but she's making the choice to shack up with the devil she knows if it means saving Wiley and Amelia. Drew, meanwhile, is all in on this fantasy where she's the woman he loves and she plays the role of grateful bride, even if her heart is clearly somewhere else. Over in the Ashford world, Curtis and Drew have history, and not the warm fuzzy kind. They've had friction, they've had beef, and now, with Drew shot and someone needing to pay, that animosity is suddenly evidence. Dante reviewed the case file and raised the idea that maybe they need to look at Curtis again, just when Willow was the prime suspect. Portia was already sweating because Nina threw her name into the suspect pool, and Portia's alibi involves a whole lot of sheets and Isaiah Gannon, not exactly family dinner conversation, especially now that she's pregnant and isn't even sure who the father is. And hovering over all of this? Jenz Sidwell. Sonny's newest headache. Sidwell's power struggle with Sonny has shifted from politics to pure retaliation, and since his attempt to frame Laura for Professor Dalton's death blew up in his face, is now apparently moving to Plan B, hit Sonny where it really hurts, Carly. Because everyone in Port Charles knows, you want to break Sonny Corinthos? You go after Carly Spencer. So that's our battlefield, a sham wedding, a possible wrongful arrest, a pregnancy secret, and a kidnapping just waiting to erupt. Let's break this mess down storyline by storyline, because there's a lot to unpack. We'll start at the Quartermaine mansion, because honestly, we need the chaos comfort food first. Michael brings Ned home early from the hospital, and for once, there's something actually wholesome happening at that house of dysfunction. Ned's early release has everyone smiling. Gio and Emma show up like a blast from the next generation, and Chase is in the kitchen playing domestic hero, whipping up the Thanksgiving turkey. Of course, this is the QS, so peaceful holidays are illegal. Leo lets out back in, paws up on the table, eyes on the turkey, and for a split second you know every GH fan thought, here we go, there goes dinner. But Michael manages to grab the dog before the bird becomes roadkill. Dinner survives, this year, and the Quartermaines decide not to push their luck. Instead of tempting fate and waiting for the universe to ruin the meal, they pack it up and send it to GH for the staff working on Thanksgiving. Which is honestly very on brand. The Quartermaines don't eat the dinner they cook, but they still somehow manage to make it memorable. Tracy, naturally, has ordered pizza ahead of time because she always plays the long game. So the tradition lives on, the singing before the meal, the pizza instead of turkey, and for a few minutes, it actually feels like a real family holiday, just with more money and more secrets. Gio stays back with Ned, which is sweet. This kid has slid into Port Charles' life like he's been here forever. There's a vibe that Gio is going to be important moving forward, especially with Brooklyn acting like a mix of proud cousin and protective big sister. And Emma being around? That just screams next wave of Port Charles teens and young adults getting set up for long-term story. You know GH doesn't bring them back for nothing. But while the Quartermaines are trying to hold on to their tradition, someone else is sneaking off to witness a different kind of spectacle, and that's where Michael goes full soap stalker. Michael bails on the rest of the family Thanksgiving and heads over to Drew's house, where the wedding is about to happen. He doesn't walk in and sit with the guests like a normal person. Oh no. He posts up outside like some guy from a Lifetime movie, spying through the window on Willow's wedding to another man. He's not just curious, he's tortured. You can see it, the pull between wanting Willow to be free of Drew, and knowing he's the reason she's in this position in the first place because of his own choices in this whole legal fiasco. Inside, Drew is doing his best to spin this as the perfect day. He promises Willow it's all going to be fine, that no one is going to stop him from marrying the woman he loves. The problem is, we all know Willow isn't on the same page emotionally. She wants her kids, she wants stability, she wants to avoid prison, but love? That's not what's motivating her right now. And when Nina arrives with a wedding dress and a whole lot of concern, the cracks in this farce start to show. Nina questions her gently at first, then more directly, does Willow actually love Drew? Willow doesn't dance around it, she basically says she doesn't have to. And that answer says everything. She's not walking down that aisle because she's blindly in love. She's doing it because it's a means to an end. Nina is unsettled, and honestly, so are we. If you've watched Willow's journey, you know this woman is not heartless, she's just cornered. Scout serves as flower girl, Elizabeth helps Willow get into her dress and stands as maid of honor, and for a second, if you squint, you can pretend this is a real, happy wedding. But outside the window, Michael is watching, Willow is clearly torn, and the vibe is all wrong. This isn't a love story climax, it's a legal Hail Mary dressed up in white. And you just know something has to interrupt it. And that's where Tuesday's spoilers kick in. Drew doubles down on his determination, saying no one's going to stop him from marrying Willow, but that might just be wishful thinking. Michael lurking outside isn't exactly subtle, and it's not hard to imagine Drew catching him, blowing up, and ordering him off the property. Picture it, Drew storms outside, calls him a trespasser, maybe even threatens to have him arrested, which is hilariously ironic coming from a guy whose entire life right now is built on manipulating the system. But as messy as the almost wedding is, that's just one piece of the chaos. Because across town, Curtis's house is about to become ground zero for a different kind of drama, the kind with cops on the porch and secrets exploding inside. Marshall is back home and welcomed warmly for the holiday. Portia, Stella, Trina, they've all been spinning plates for months, trying to juggle Portia's pregnancy, her affair with Isaiah, her crumbling marriage, and Curtis moving on with Jordan. Kai even drops by, Jordan shows up with greens, and it almost looks like an attempt at a blended extended family moment. But GH never lets that last long. Jordan doesn't stay for dinner, instead she ends up outside, lip-locked with Curtis in the kind of kiss that absolutely no estranged wife wants her daughter to witness right after finding out her mom is pregnant. Trina steps outside and sees it, Curtis and Jordan kissing, right after overhearing Marshall and Stella talking about Portia's pregnancy that Portia hasn't told her about. The betrayal hits her like a truck. She drops food on the floor, and you can practically hear her heart shatter. Trina, who has been lied to about paternity and big life stuff before, is now watching her family repeat the same pattern, secrets, half-truths, and decisions being made for her own good without her input. Her line later, about how much it sucks when your family keeps secrets from you, is earned. She's done. And honestly, who can blame her? Then comes the knock on the door that changes everything. Nathan shows up with another officer. Trina steps outside again, and this time she sees Curtis being confronted by the cops. When Curtis asks if he's under arrest, you can see Nathan playing that polite but firm card, saying he just needs to talk, but making it clear that Curtis cooperating would be in his best interest. We all know that's code for, you're in trouble, and this is your last chance to make it easy. This all ties back to Dante reopening the Drew shooting case. Willow may be on trial, but Dante isn't convinced they've got the whole picture. He flagged the animosity between Drew and Curtis, opening the door for Curtis to be looked at more seriously as a suspect. Now, whether Curtis actually pulled the trigger? Almost certainly not. But whether he's convenient to frame? Absolutely. And here's where Portia's role gets extra messy. She's in panic mode ever since Nina floated her as a possible suspect too. Portia does have an alibi, but it involves being in bed with Isaiah while still technically in a marriage that was supposed to be rebuilding. And now she's pregnant, and even she doesn't know for sure who the father is. Imagine having to admit that publicly just to clear your name. You know she does not want that. So what does a desperate, image-conscious, deeply conflicted Portia do? If there's even a slight chance she can redirect suspicion toward Curtis and away from herself, you know she's at least thinking about it. She's a doctor, but she's also a strategist. She's manipulated before. If shifting the spotlight from Portia cheated and might be carrying someone else's baby to Curtis might have shot Drew gets her off the hook, she might take that shot. Especially now that Curtis is moving on with Jordan, adding spite and heartbreak into the mix. While Curtis is getting hauled in for questioning, Trina is back home dropping emotional grenades. She lays into Marshall and Stella for hiding Portia's pregnancy and keeping secrets. You can practically hear years of resentment bubbling up in that one line about how much it hurts to have family hiding the truth. She might also start spilling details about Drew's blackmail, dragging more of his shady behavior into the daylight. The Ashford-Robinson clan is not just fractured, they're splintering. Now, while all that is blowing up, Michael has his own side quest going on. After playing Peeping Tom at the wedding and wrestling with his conscience, he meets up with Jacinda Bracken. There's a spark there, and he even says he wishes they'd met under different circumstances. She feels it too. And then comes the temptation, the chance to turn their arrangement into something a lot more real, and a lot more physical. So now Michael is torn between the woman he still loves and can't have, the mess he helped create, and this new woman who's offering him a distraction he might desperately want. Will he resist? Or will he slide into something reckless just to numb the pain of watching Willow walk down that aisle? You know Michael, he's usually the do the right thing guy, but grief, guilt, and heartbreak make people do stupid, very human things. Meanwhile, we pivot over to some other returning faces and side plots that are clearly woven into the bigger picture. Kevin pops back into town from Dublin and surprises Laura with a sweet hello, beautiful. It's a breath of calm in an episode loaded with tension. Laura, who's just survived being targeted in a whole political revenge scheme, now has her partner back at her side, just in time, because with Sidwell still out there playing games, Laura's going to need Kevin's steady presence more than ever. Gio opens up to Brooklyn about not wanting to push her away anymore, which is big. His emotional walls are coming down, and Brooklyn, who already has a full plate with Chase, career, and family drama, is ready to help him mend fences with Dante too. Emma's determination is front and center as she pursues this whole lab situation Professor Dalton left behind, especially after Joss filled her in. That story might feel separate now, but it's tied deeply to Sidwell's failed attempt to weaponize Dalton's death and frame Laura. And that brings us to the darkest thread of all, Carly's looming kidnapping. The weekly preview gives us just a taste, but it's enough to make your stomach drop. Carly is at home at night, alone, holding a fire poker. Someone attacks her from behind. She fights, because of course she does, this is Carly, but the implication is clear, she doesn't win this round. The attack isn't just a random assault, it's tactical. There may be more than one person, and the goal isn't to hurt her and leave. It's to take her. Jack Brennan's voice in the promo, that shocked "oh my god," tells us he arrives too late. Maybe he races to Windermere or Carly's home, drawn there by some intel or a gut feeling, but by the time he gets there, Carly's gone. And that is exactly what someone like Sidwell would want. Sidwell's original plan was to frame Laura for Dalton's death and use that to tighten his grip on Port Charles. That blew up when Laura won the mayoral race anyway and the evidence game didn't go his way. Now he needs another pressure point, something emotional, ugly, and effective. Carly is perfect. Yes, Sonny and Carly are divorced. No, that doesn't matter. Everyone knows their bond is still unbreakable. They share children, history, and this weird cosmic tether that no amount of new relationships can fully sever. Sidwell knows that if Carly goes missing, Sonny will unravel. He'll do anything to get her back, and Sidwell will finally have a bargaining chip that might pry those peers out of Sonny's hands. But this isn't just about Sonny. Brennan is head of the WSB and deeply connected to Carly in his own right. If Carly is kidnapped on his watch by a man already on his radar, that's going to make things very personal for him too. Suddenly, Sidwell is up against not just a furious mob boss, but a high-level Fed with resources and a personal vendetta. And let's not forget the collateral damage. Marco, Sidwell's son, is in a relationship with Carly's brother Lucas. Carly already hates the idea of Lucas being involved with Marco because of the danger surrounding Sidwell. If it comes out that Sidwell was behind Carly's kidnapping, that relationship is going to implode, and Lucas is going to be stuck between love and horror at what his boyfriend's father has done. So where does that leave all our major players emotionally? Drew is still laser-focused on winning Willow as his wife, winning the trial, winning the war against his enemies. He doesn't care who shot him, not really. He just wants to weaponize the situation. If Curtis goes down, that's a victory. If Portia's exposed? Collateral damage. Drew has shifted from hero returning from captivity to a man who's comfortable playing dirty, and his insistence that he loves Willow just makes the whole thing more unsettling. Willow, meanwhile, is the embodiment of sacrifice. She's staring down a life she didn't ask for, with a man she doesn't love, because she's trying to secure a future for her kids. That picture of her with Wiley and Amelia? That's her North Star. She's not blind to what Drew has done. She just believes this might be the least terrible option in front of her. But watching her hesitate, watching her get asked point blank if she loves him and answering "I don't have to," it's heartbreaking. She's shutting down parts of herself to survive. And long term? That's a recipe for disaster. Michael is at a crossroads. He's still in love with Willow, stuck watching her make a choice he hates but understands. He feels guilty over how his own decisions fed into this legal nightmare. Now Jacinda stands in front of him as a possible escape, a way to forget, if only for a night. Will he stay the good guy and walk away? Or will he give in, letting pain and resentment push him into a fling that complicates everything even more? GH loves to corrupt its moral centers, and Michael has been sliding in that direction for a while. Curtis, right now, is the fall guy waiting to be officially framed. He didn't shoot Drew, fans can feel that in their bones, but his past conflict with Drew, his messy love life, and his proximity to this whole mess make him an easy target. He's trying to rebuild his life, to figure out his place post-paralysis, post-marriage implosion, and now the universe is asking, how much more can you take? Portia is spinning plates made of glass. She's pregnant, unsure of paternity, terrified of scandal, and watching Curtis kiss another woman while the walls close in on her as a suspect. She's capable of doing the wrong thing for what she tells herself are the right reasons. If she points the finger at Curtis, even subtly, is she protecting herself and her baby? Or is she just repeating the same pattern of manipulation that almost blew up Trina's life the first time? Trina is done being the last to know. She's the emotional truth teller in this mess. Her anger is justified, and it may push her to align more with people outside her family than ever before. When the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones lying to you, you start redefining who family is. On the mob and political side, Sonny and Laura are both facing the same enemy from different angles. Laura just fended off a political smear campaign tied to Dalton's death. Sonny's about to be gutted emotionally by Carly's kidnapping. Sidwell thinks he's playing chess, but he's messing with two people who do not tolerate attacks on the people they love. And Carly? She's about to be the center of the storm yet again, not because of something she did wrong, but because of who she is to Sonny and what she represents to Sidwell. Her toughness has always been her shield, but when someone knocks you out in your own home and drags you away into the night, that's a new level of vulnerable, even for Carly Spencer. Now let's slip into speculation mode, because you know that's half the fun of watching GH. Imagine this: Willow pauses the wedding. Maybe she doesn't say, "I can't" out loud yet, but something delays the ceremony. Drew and Michael clash, Willow rethinks everything, and we get that classic soap setup where she stands at the altar and the question becomes, will she say "I do" to a man she doesn't love? GH might drag this out a bit, but they're definitely painting her as someone who could walk away at the last second. One wild theory? Michael doesn't just give in to temptation with Jacinda, he does it after watching Willow move forward with Drew. That kind of fine, if she can move on, so can I reaction could launch a whole secondary love triangle later, especially if Willow eventually regrets marrying Drew and wants Michael back. Messy? Oh, absolutely. Very GH? 100%. Bigger picture, B and BER, GH fans, imagine if Curtis really does get arrested. Official mugshot, charges, court dates, all of it. The real shooter is still out there, but Drew is perfectly happy watching Curtis go down. Portia may have nudged things along behind the scenes, and Trina will never forgive that. We could see Trina testifying, Portia squirming, Jordan torn between supporting Curtis and staying within the lines, and Dante battling his conscience if he suspects the wrong man is being targeted but can't yet prove it. Then there's the kidnapping. GH might be setting up a storyline where Carly's disappearance forces alliances that nobody expects. Sonny and Brennan, both with something personal at stake, might be forced to work together, a mob boss and the head of the WSB chasing the same target. Could Sidwell's big move actually be what brings him down? He thinks Carly is leverage, but in reality, she might be the match that ignites a full-scale war against him. Marco could end up caught in the middle, maybe he unknowingly provides a clue that leads Lucas, Sonny, or Brennan closer to the truth. As for Portia's pregnancy and paternity, GH almost never introduces that kind of question without planning to blow it up later. A DNA test reveal at the worst possible time? Maybe right when Curtis is facing charges and needs support? Or when Isaiah thinks he's just the side fling and realizes he might be the father? That's going to shatter lives no matter what the result is. And don't sleep on Emma, Gio, and the younger set. Emma digging into the Dalton lab story could unravel more of Sidwell's secrets, possibly connecting him to experiments, cover-ups, or illegal activity that the WSB and Laura can use against him. Gio repairing his relationship with Dante might position him in the middle of the cop side of things, while Emma represents the idealistic do what's right no matter what spirit that often blows open adult cover-ups. By the end of all this, what did this episode really show us? We watched a woman in a wedding dress counting the cost of marrying for survival, not love. We watched a man spy on the woman he still loves, powerless to stop her from stepping into a life he hates for her. We watched a family pull pizza out of a chaotic holiday and still manage to sing before dinner, because that's how they survive. We saw a daughter realize that once again, her family decided she didn't deserve the whole truth. We watched a man on the verge of being hauled off as the fall guy in a shooting he probably had nothing to do with. We saw a pregnant woman silently calculate whether protecting her secret is worth sacrificing her soon-to-be ex-husband. And looming over all of it, we saw a hint, just a few seconds in a promo, of a woman being attacked in the dark, of an ex-wife about to become a weapon in a war between powerful men. That's Port Charles in a nutshell, isn't it? Family loyalty vs corporate loyalty. Love versus self-preservation. Guilt versus forgiveness. People trying to build new beginnings while ghosts from the past stalk them in the present. So, GH fans, I want to hear from you. Do you think Willow will actually go through with marrying Drew, or are we heading for a last-second collapse at the altar? Is Michael going to stay loyal to his feelings for Willow, or will he end up in bed with Jacinda to numb the pain? Do you believe Curtis will really get arrested and charged, or is this a red herring to expose the real shooter later? How far do you think Portia will go to protect her reputation and her baby's paternity secret? Would she really let Curtis take the fall? And what about Carly? Do you think Sidwell is absolutely the one behind her kidnapping, and if so, will this be the move that finally takes him down? Are we heading toward an unlikely alliance between Sunny and Brennan to bring her home? Drop your thoughts, theories, and wild predictions down in the comments. I read them, and you know I love seeing how you all connect the dots. Sometimes you predict twists before they even air. If you enjoyed this deep dive into today's drama and you want more long-form breakdowns like this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next recap. We've got more fallout coming from the Drew shooting, more chaos brewing around Carly's kidnapping, and I'm betting this whole Willow, Drew, Michael triangle is nowhere near done. Stay tuned GH fans, keep those theories coming. Port Charles never sleeps, and neither do the secrets.